Scientists discovered a meteorite fragment with powerful lethality in South Africa. This meteorite releases enormous energy and explodes once shaken, making it very dangerous. A mysterious armed force is planning an ambush in a sparsely populated dense forest. They ambushed and hijacked 3 scientists researching a comet's future energy plan and the meteorite. The task force carrying out the mission consists of 9 Special Forces soldiers from around the world. But after the operation ended, Jackie Chan and his teammates suddenly disappeared and went missing. Upon hearing the news, the CIA realized the situation was serious because Jackie was one of their members, codenamed 523. The robbers' operation was carefully planned and even involved the use of a U.S. military helicopter. And if the robbers knew the delivery time, it would prove that the CIA had an internal leak. If the formula falls into the hands of criminals, the consequences would be unimaginable. The urgent task is to recover the scientist and meteorite fragments and find the mastermind behind the heist. Morgan, the usually silent CIA South Africa chief, was assigned because he is familiar with the local geography. He was ordered to lead 3 agents to quickly begin carrying out the mission. But when shaking hands and bidding farewell to the soon-to-retire General Chawan, Morgan slipped him a note that read, "Plan successful, mission accomplished." After Chawan Yue's anger, it seems the two are the insiders and the main masterminds behind the whole affair. The highest commander who previously led the Special Forces squad was Morgan. Meanwhile, the CIA high-ups indeed suspected there was a mole within the agency. To be safe, they decided to select an agent from the branch to conduct a secret investigation. Jack, severely injured in an African indigenous tribe, gradually transformed. He struggled to roll off the simple wooden bed and painfully dragged his fractured leg, trying to crawl out of the tent. At that moment, a group of friendly natives arrived. They were all shocked by Jack's tenacious vitality. The natives rescued Jack, who was barely clinging to life, from the mountain, but did not know where he came from. Only then did Jack realize he had amnesia and could only despairingly shout a few times, "Who am I?" Since they couldn't understand each other, the natives all thought that was his name. Jack's body gradually recovered, but his memory showed no signs of returning. The little native Baba gestured to tell him it would take countless sunrises and sunsets to reach beyond the mountain. The adorable lions on the African savanna fascinated Jack. However, the lionesses protecting their cubs were more terrifying. Fortunately, Jack's Special Forces skills were deeply ingrained, enabling him to climb a tree and escape all danger. The natives discovered a miracle on the mountain and buried 8 bodies dressed like me. Jack was alone at home, remembering someone as images from a past mission appeared in his mind. He vaguely remembered that the 8 people who died in the crash appeared to be his teammates. Meanwhile, Morgan was putting on a show, leading a search for the missing traitors. At night, a distant racing team passing by gave Jack hope of leaving the grassland. The tribe held an event. A passing race team gave Jack hope of leaving the grassland. The tribe held a grand farewell ceremony, praying for blessings and protection for Who Am I. The chief also gave him his own silver bracelet that brings good luck. On the road, Jack and his group encountered a corpse hanging from a tree again. The other party carried a parachute and wore a brass uniform. Among the relics were multiple passports from various countries. There was also a matchbox labeled 11 is just right, 1 too many. Jack, confused, decided to borrow his father's compass and leave alone. Before leaving, he promised his father that he would definitely return and give back the compass. Not far ahead, he saw a broken-down race car, and the driver had been bitten by a venomous snake. Seeing that the navigator's plea for help was in vain, Jack had no time to explain and began emergency treatment. The navigator Yuki mistakenly thought Jack was a suspicious native and immediately attacked him. Jack dodged and weaved flexibly, showing no fear even against Yuki's gun. After chewing the herbs, he realized his mouth was numb too, so he could only gesture to convey his meaning. Fortunately, Yuki understood and managed to save her brother's life. Using his Special Forces instincts, Jack improvised a glucose first aid treatment on the spot. Seeing that this remarkable native could both save lives and repair and drive cars, Yuki and her brother immediately dropped their guard and completely trusted their lifesaver. Jack's excellent driving skills let him timely shake off many opponents and swiftly reach the finish line. With timely medical care and herbal remedies neutralizing the poison, the driver was lucky to escape safely. The doctor said that typically only Special Forces use coconut juice transfusion to replenish glucose. It seems that Bailey, the skilled and English-speaking poetic native, is quite remarkable. Morgan and his companion also learned from the rescue report that Jack was still alive. To root out the problem, they decided to locate and eliminate all survivors of the squad. In the hospital, Christine, a beautiful reporter from the South African Forum, suddenly found Jack. She saw the heroic deeds of Who Am I on TV and came to write a special interview. But Jack, like everyone else, now wants to figure out exactly who he is. She said she was very busy and had no time for an interview, especially since Jack happened to show up then. With a glance, Jack hinted to pass Christine on to her and used his cold as an excuse to get away. X-rays reveal that Jack's brain has sustained severe damage, and he is currently unable to regain his memory through treatment. The doctor advises her to ask the police for help and check her information through the missing persons department. Jack avoids Christine and is about to leave the hospital. Suddenly, 3 hostile strangers appear in the corridor. During the standoff, UK suddenly jumps out, giving Jack a fright. UK tried to stimulate Jack to help him regain his memory, but unfortunately, it didn't work. At this moment, the mysterious person approached and showed his ID. It turned out they were CIA agents. Under the strong insistence of the three, Jack had no choice but to meet their boss, Morgan. Jack had no recollection of this CIA chief stationed in South Africa. However, the other party was fully aware of the series of experiences he went through after awakening in the indigenous tribe. Morgan said he needed Jack's secret assistance to conduct a highly confidential investigation. Jack also had to rely on him to uncover his past. Feeling helpless and confused, he reluctantly agreed. Morgan suddenly shouted 523 to test Jack, but Jack was puzzled by the number. Morgan was completely relieved and lied to his subordinates, saying Jack was merely someone who closely resembled 523. When Jack caught up to ask for contact details, Morgan stopped Lise, who was about to hand over a business card. He took out a globally universal phone card that could directly contact the CIA and handed it to Jack. The three agents did not know that Morgan was the mole and trusted him completely. As soon as Morgan stepped out of the hospital, he secretly ordered the South African assassin to kill Jack. On the other side, the international gang that had kidnapped the scientists and the meteorite took over the power station. The three scientists threatened had no choice but to begin testing under dangerous conditions. Meteorite energy is immense. Even a small fragment can power an entire city. However, due to the excessive charge load, the gang refuses to halt the experiment. As the meteorite's core kept expanding, the entire power plant was destroyed and exploded. The affected city suddenly lost power, plunging into paralysis. The police were too distracted to pay attention to Jack, who wanted to confirm his identity. But at this moment, the sheriff suddenly saw Jack's wanted poster on the wall. He immediately ordered his men to secure Jack and quickly contacted South Africa's National Security Agency to carry out the arrest. When taken to identify the crime scene, Jack found that he had regained some of his memory. The data also showed that he and his accomplices had stayed overnight in this vacant exhibition hall. The next day, several people mysteriously disappeared. The day after, 3 scientists were kidnapped. At the crime scene, there is also a batch of high-tech weapons that have never appeared in any African country before. The agent firmly believes that Jack is an accomplice of the kidnappers, but Jack cannot respond to his interrogation. At this moment, the scene of an agent turning a keychain starts to overlap with a helicopter. Jack suddenly remembered the scene when he was introducing himself to his teammate. But just as he was about to say his name, the 2 pilots suddenly fled in panic. They had already destroyed the control system and put on the only 2 parachutes available. The 2 said they were just following orders. Someone else wanted to kill the Special Forces team. Jack was quick to react and grabbed a pilot the moment he jumped out of the cockpit. The pilot died on the spot because his parachute failed to open. It seems he is the corpse in the tree. The teammates wanted to turn back to Jack, but the plane was out of control, so everyone had to let go. 8 people died instantly in the crash. Only Jack survived, miraculously saved by the cushioning of the branches. Jack admitted he had amnesia and that all his teammates were dead, but the agent completely disbelieved him. He believed that the specially trained Jack was merely arguing and even produced a stack of passports. It turned out that each member of the squad had 6 passports, truly masters of multiple identities. After harsh interrogation failed, the agent decided to charge him with serious offenses, including murder. Jack didn't want to passively wait for his doom, so he pushed everyone away and rushed to escape. What's going on?
94 years in a wheelchair's frame, under the summer sun, playing a brand new game with suns at his side for the camera's fake cheer. Cutting a ribbon, why is he still here? His hair is all white and soaked through with sweat. His hands are like tree roots, a lifetime of debt. They treat him like a god, a legend on display, but the light in his eyes has long faded away.
Damn it.
Oh, what do you live for? Can you tell me the cost? They say let the money go, but you fear all you've lost. You can stack up the bills till they reach for the sky, but the ghost of empty pockets will never say goodbye. Oh, what do you owe in this life that you lead?
Jack narrowly escaped and had to wrap his jacket around the handcuffs. The officer behind watched Jack and pulled down the protective gear on his head. Jack pulled up and looked at the officer's head. The wound was still there, and the officer immediately knew that Jack's head had been chopped off. When the officer saw that Jack's head had been chopped off, he looked at the officer's head. After Jack's head was chopped off, the officer's head was also chopped off. After the officer's head was chopped off. After the officer's head was cut off. Jack narrowly escaped and had to cover the handcuffs with his coat. UK had previously lent his brother's room to him temporarily, but now he can only hide back at the hotel. Unexpectedly, both the gang and reporter Kristen had already gotten the news and were waiting here. Jack pretended to accept the interview, asked Kristen to help pay the taxi fare, and then sent him away. The gang, unaware of Christine's background, pretended to be police and forcibly took him away to begin interrogation. Jack returned to the room, and before he could unlock the handcuffs, he was attacked by the gang members who had followed him. Fortunately, the gang repeatedly missed their shots, allowing Jack to counterattack and slide down from the rooftop using the terrain. While hiding here and there, he happened to see Christine handcuffed by the gang beside the car. Unexpectedly, the opponent was also skilled and easily jumped into the car. Jack didn't have time to think and hurried to the car, preparing to flee with Christine. Coincidentally, Yuke returned at this moment, and the gangsters spotted them again. In desperation, Jack dragged Yuke into the car and sped off in a hurry. With the two handcuffed having no coordination, the car jolted and swerved wildly along the way. Finally, they ended up stuck in a mud pit. The pursuing gang was gradually closing in, but Yuki is a professional after all. He slammed the accelerator, kicking up gravel, catching them off guard, and then smoothly got the car moving. The three devised a small plan to lose the traffic police, but were still cornered by the gang. UK briefly observed, then immediately floored the gas, ran over debris, scraped the car body, and drove out of the narrow alley. After a few spins, the car landed back on all four wheels, and the three led the gang into the parking lot again. The gang's driving can't match Yuki's. Their car was shot by him towards the edge of the building, teetering precariously. At a critical moment, Jack reached out and saved several people, but the others still tried to capture him. But during the fight, the gang's car fell off the building. This time, they were completely unable to chase down Jack. After escaping, Christine easily unlocked the handcuffs, leaving Jack and Yuki stunned. Christine suspects that Jack is being chased by multiple groups because he is hiding certain secrets. Jack couldn't explain clearly, so he had to present everything he had found. Christine accidentally cracked the code on the matchbox. It turns out this English phrase represents a phone number unrelated to its literal meaning. 11 is the international dialing code 011. D stands for 3 and 1 stands for 1. After decoding the entire phrase, it was actually the phone number of a holding company in Rotterdam, Netherlands. Jack firmly believes this company is linked to his past, so he decides to rush to Rotterdam to investigate. Christine insists on continuing to follow and interview Jack. Juke, who needs to stay behind to take care of his brother, can only say goodbye to them one by one. Juke casually picked up Christine's camera, wanting to take a selfie for everyone as a memento. Unexpectedly, Christine's expression changed drastically, and she suddenly grabbed the camera, claiming there was no film. Soon after, Jack and Christine successfully arrived in Rotterdam. They found that the phone number of Hess Holdings belonged to the Maersk building. But whenever they called this number, it always went to voicemail. The two couldn't find their target among over 100 companies in the building. Now, the only clue left is a matchbox, which belongs to the restaurant where they are currently located. The restaurant is right across from the building. The pilot who fell must have visited here. Jack paused briefly, avoided Christine, and secretly called Morgan for help on a public phone. Unaware of the full situation, Jack indeed used that special phone card to directly reach the other party. He hurriedly said he was being pursued, and the assassin's headquarters was probably inside a building. He had already arrived in Rotterdam and was currently at the restaurant across from the building. Morgan Wenyuan was shocked and quickly used a telescope to confirm the situation. It turned out that he and Sean had already arrived in Rotterdam and were currently inside the building. Morgan hurriedly steadied Jack, falsely claiming he would send someone over to support him. But in fact, he and Sean planned to capture Jack alive to figure out exactly how much Jack knew about their plan. In the restaurant, Jack accidentally found a bug in Christine's bag. It turned out he had pretended to listen earlier and installed the receiver next to the public phone. Jack instantly flew into a rage, and Christine hurriedly explained that everything she did was for the interview. But then Jack noticed his attitude from his nervous expression. Jack immediately suspected something was wrong with the camera in his hands, so he quickly grabbed it and took it apart. It turned out to be a gun disguised as a camera. No wonder Christine didn't let Yuchi use it. Jack recalled how Christine easily unlocked the handcuffs and deciphered the code before. He finally confirmed that he was not a reporter or a detective novel enthusiast at all. Under Jack's pressing questions, Christine had to confess that she was actually a CIA agent. She had been hiding her true identity all along just to help and protect Jack. But Jack no longer dared to trust anyone, and at this moment, the gangsters, scared, charged over. Christine just went out to make a call. Clearly, he was the one who betrayed himself. A series of coincidences caused Jack to misunderstand Christine and completely ignore her explanations. Gangsters successively stormed into the restaurant, forcing Jack to fight while retreating and hastily escaped through the back door. Outnumbered and relentlessly pursued by the gangsters, Jack even lost his shoes. Jack ran into the commercial street in a disheveled state, unexpectedly picking up a wooden shoe, which enabled him to fight back. Hurry up.
Aside for the camera's fake cheer, cutting a ribbon, why is he still here? His hair is all white and soaked through with sweat. His hands are like tree roots, a lifetime of debt. They treat him like a god, a legend on display, but the light in his eyes has long faded away. Oh, what do you live for? Can you tell me the cost? They say
That was thrilling, wasn't it? Jack, wearing wooden clogs, hurriedly ran away and also rescued a little puppy on the way. He ran across the street into the bustling crowd and finally shook off the gangsters. After taking off his shoes, Jack immediately contacted Morgan, who then used a delaying tactic. Falsely claimed to be on a military plane rushing here, but Jack had already become wary by then and dared not trust anyone anymore. Morgan also no longer dared to trust anyone. Falsely claimed to be on a military plane rushing here, but Jack was fully alert at this point and did not disclose his location. After hanging up, he did not take the phone card again. After investigating, Jack discovered that the heavily guarded building had only one way in, the garbage chute. He climbed into the building and borrowed a set of clothes. By this time, Christine had led a team to surround and monitor the entire building. The trading partners that Chauvin and Morgan were waiting for have finally arrived. Jack unexpectedly came to the meeting room and finally uncovered their conspiracy. It turned out that Chauvin and Morgan were colluding with each other for personal gain. They used a special forces squad and military weapons to commit their crimes, all just to sell meteorite fragments and related scientific research data at high prices to international gangs for profit. While hiding, Jack was forced to jump onto the balcony and accidentally discovered the ventilation duct. He climbed through it into the conference room and happened to see 3 kidnapped scientists. Except for the formulas and data stored on the disk, all other files had been deleted. Although the meteorite's energy is very unstable, it cannot be controlled. However, the gang leader still intends to use it to develop highly lethal weapons. The scientist only then realized that his research results had been sold to the arms dealer. After receiving the disk, the gang leader immediately began paying the balance. But Jack noticed that as the 3 left, he quickly sneaked into the conference room. Jack grabbed the disk and canceled the transfer, donating all the money to the Save the Children Foundation. When Sean returned, he still thought Jack was just a coffee runner and immediately kicked him out. It was only after the transfer was completed that the 3 realized something was wrong. Morgan immediately suspected that Jack had stolen the money. He ordered his men to seal off the building, search floor by floor, and hunt down Jack. But everyone fell for Jack's diversion tactic. He had actually been hiding in the conference room the whole time. The guard here was weak. After Jack brutally beat Chauvin and the gang leader, he left. While escaping, Jack happened to run into Morgan, who claimed he was an undercover agent. He spent 2 years getting close to Chauvin, and once caught red-handed, they could close the net. But Jack interrupting the transfer caused his plan to fail, making it impossible to arrest the criminal. Jack was already confused due to amnesia, and this twist completely baffled him. He remembered Morgan again and decided to let him escape with the disk. But Morgan deceived Jack again, then pulled the trigger on him. But the gun didn't fire. It turned out Jack had prepared and removed the firing pin before handing over the gun. Jack only has amnesia, not dementia. He wouldn't have been tricked by Morgan so many times. Jack was beating Morgan badly when a group of gangsters chased after them again. Jack had no choice but to escape to the rooftop with the disc and fought a decisive battle against 2 henchmen. The 2 were indeed quite skilled. Jack fought against both, but gradually started to weaken. Both sides engaged in a thrilling battle by the building edge, evenly matched and fighting for their lives.
Built a world of quiet dream, lit the stars so I could breathe. But then you came like thunderlight. You crashed.
Fortunately, Jack excelled at using gadgets and ultimately subdued them. But the door had already been locked from the inside by Morgan. Jack shook off his pursuers and had to risk jumping down the building.
Pull me like the tide to the moon, like I've known your soul since before I knew what love could do, how deep it moves. I'm weightless in the gravity of you. You break me just to heal me new, and I'd fall again if I had to. I'm weightless in the gravity of you. You trace my scars with gentle hands, like you've been where my hurt began. I try to run, but every time your voice is home, it reels me back in line. No safety net, no backup plan, but still I jump, I understand. You don't catch me, you just fly with
Indeed, Aki Nagamatsu's bracelet brought good luck. It helped Jack at a crucial moment, facing an inescapable and tight encirclement. Morgan has nowhere to run and can only surrender. Everything has settled. Jack is also about to regain his identity, but he did not hand over the disc. Instead, it was thrown into the river and destroyed. Humans should not rely on natural forces beyond their control. Jack now just wants to return to South Africa. There are still people waiting for him there. Please kindly like, subscribe, share, and support the Mingjing and